This episode is proudly sponsored by Amber L. Contact us today to learn how you can be a part of the vibration experience. Good evening and welcome to Vibration, where we empower individuals to speak their distinct truth, passions, and personal message on a global online stage. I'm your host, Michelle McDonald, passionate foodie, author, and entrepreneur. And tonight we are starting a new theme, Children's Literacy Matters, under the topic, Building Character Development in Children through Reading Literacy. Our guest tonight is Candis Marshall, who in 2006 received a package from Columbia College that contained a button that read, Create Change. She pinned this onto her jacket and instantly decided to create change daily. Since then, Candis enrolled in a world schooling program that she created for herself, entitled Mastery of Self and Manifestation of Me. She has sought to understand who she is from a holistic perspective. Her diligence in this pursuit has given rise to her becoming a mother of 3 children, a published author of 2 books, with 4 additional books to be released in fall 2022. Candis is also a full-time professional artist whose work has been exhibited in dozens of exhibitions and has sold more than 2,000 times. Candis is also an activational speaker, serial entrepreneur, as well as a youth and women empowerment activist with a passion and knack for finding innovative pathways to problem solving. She held the position of Arts and Culture Editor of Profiles 98 magazine for 8 years. She co-founded the Mega Mergers Apprenticeship Program in 2015, and in 2017, she co-founded Cajubon, the Bahamas' first and only award-winning sustainable tire fashion, accessories, and furniture brand with her then 6-year-old son. Over the past 2 decades, Candis has partnered with over 100 organizations to create opportunities for at-risk youth across the Bahamas. Her passion for youth development extends to her being a sponsor and supporter of the African Children's Fund, the City of East Point Literacy Program, the Children's Voices Program, and McCormick Youth Cultural Exchange Scholarship Program. Community development, environmental sustainability, and youth empowerment are always at the forefront of her mind. Candis believes that one of the greatest tools we have to improve in these areas is to ensure that our people have the ability to read and access to the right information. Candis also believes that dreams are achieved by taking every step of a lifelong journey. Candis, welcome to the stage tonight.
Thank you, Michelle. It's such a pleasure to be here tonight.
Yes, and we are very excited to have you. I know that there are a lot of busy bee readers, such as myself, who are excited to talk about this topic, especially when it comes to our children. They really are the seeds of our future. And so being able to talk about reading literacy and character development is a huge win. And I believe it's very timely. So of course, what we have noticed is that your biography is extremely interesting. There are so many different aspects to it, showcasing your love for the arts and also for children and youth development through your charitable mentorship and other publication works. Tell us about your journey to becoming a children's book author.
Well, to be honest with you, I started out simply by accident and a little bit of an intention. When I was a teenager, I worked at a bookstore right here in Nassau called Nassau Stationers. And I remember one day a gentleman came into the store and I was assisting him to find the books and things that he wanted. And so he stopped me as we walked down the aisle and he says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, I want to be a writer. I want to be an author. And he says, "So what are you going to write about?" I thought about it for a second. I said, "You know what? I'm going to write about me. I'm going to write about my life and what I want to do. And in response to that, he says, well, nobody's going to want to read about you. And I thought to myself in that moment, I was about maybe 16, 17. And I thought to myself in that moment, I was like, okay, my life has to be interesting enough that I can write about it, because that's the thing I'm going to know for sure. Forget everything else. That's what I'm going to know for sure. And around that time, I was also going through a very tough time. And I came up with this idea for a story, just to kind of articulate what it was that I was going through, because I was a teenager, in college. I started college when I was 16. And just to figure out, how do I say what I want to say? And that's where the idea for my second children's book came in. It's called The Non-Adventure Adventures of Nothing Special. And in that book, I am the main character, nothing special. And all of the things that I was struggling with became characters as well. Like feelings like I can't, I quit, I'm poor, I'm broken, and I'll never be. These were the things that I was experiencing as a teenager. And so in that story, in the first draft of that story that came about when I was about 17, that's the characters. I gave them those names, and that's how we got started. That was, what, over 2 decades ago?
Wow, that's incredible. And the thing is, you must have such tenacity, because you were 16, you were determined, and you're like, I'm going to do it. I don't know when, I don't know how. I started to write it on paper. It's done. That's it.
Yeah. I've always been that person, I get an idea in my head, and I'm like, okay, I may not be able to do this today, but as long as I'm still alive, I can do it. I can do it. Yeah, it's just time. That's all it needs is time. Nothing else, just time.
So you've already hinted on the main character, letting us know that it's a portrayal of yourself and all these different feelings that you were going through. And I know that it's something that teens can definitely relate to, and also children, because, they hear things and they don't quite understand it. But something that is universal among us all, no matter our age, is how things make us feel. Yes. And so these other characters portrayed how you felt, either based on words or actions. And in the summary of your book, you mentioned that your character, was either transformed through the journey or had transformed someone else. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, during the entire book, Nothing Special learned that a lot of her life experiences had value. And that was one of the core lessons. Your life experience has value. When you feel as though you're struggling, when you're living in doubt, and that's one of the places that is in the story. They have a place called Struggle Valley, and the Settlement of Doubt, and the Village of Faith. We've all experienced these things. We've all been at these places. Mm-hmm. And what Nothing discovered was that no part of her journey was wasted. No part of it. The bad things were not wasted. The good things were not wasted. Every single experience had an intrinsic value that added up to her becoming much more than she ever expected, Mm-hmm. And that's a key part of it. Now, I'm not going to tell you the one of the other main themes of the story. You're going to have to read it. You are just going to have to read it and get into it. But the core, one of the other things is that, as a child, as an adult, or as you transition from one to another, life will continue to throw some blows at you. Mm-hmm. And rather than trying to define it through any particular lens, just call it what it is. And that's what the book does. Call it what it is. When I was feeling as though I can't, guess what? I created a character called I Can't, gave him a face, gave him a whole persona, all of the feelings that came along with feeling like I couldn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. I poured it all into that character and brought that character to life, And I tell people all the time, I say, as you live this life, sometimes the best way to articulate what you're going through is to just simply say it as you feel it. Don't pretty it up. No pretty words. Just say it as you feel it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the best and simplest way to go. Say it as you feel it. And the Non-Adventures of Nothing Special was about saying it as I felt it, saying it as I saw it, you know. And I thought that it was going to be a book for children. Boy, was I wrong. More adults have benefited from the book than children. Um, I've had the pleasure of selling about 800 copies, and those 800 copies have taken me a few places in the United States, a few places here on the Family Islands. And I will tell you the truth. The kids enjoy the story, but for the adults, it's like, oh my God, there's some deep healing. The kid in me has to,
Yes, yes.
it's always that, hey, we gotta, it's me. I didn't know this was bothering me. I didn't know I felt this way. Oh, I'm still struggling with that, you know. And it's quite amazing. It's quite amazing to see a story that started with me as a 17-year-old kid is still very relevant to adults of all ages and little children.
Yeah, and the thing is, that really shows the level and layers of your book for the kids to find in it, you know, that adventure, that journey. They're excited, like, ooh, look at the characters. I see me, you know, I'm learning new stuff. Yay. And for adults to be, as you stated, like, they kind of revert back to that space of their childhood, and they're just like, I remember this feeling. I remember this character too well. And I'm finding myself in this journey learning. So, you know, if it's them and their child, it's like both of them are on this adventure and having totally different experiences, but it's still connecting with them at that level. That's amazing.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I said, you know, it's a children's book, but in all honesty, it's for the child inside. And so no matter where you are, I've had experiences, like last year, I went to a trade expo, right? We had delegates from all over the world, former presidents from countries all over the world. We had about 100 and something countries represented. And so I'm on the trade room floor with all of my wares, and I have this book. And every so often, conversation would drum up about this book and the characters. And every couple of hours, it was me behind the curtain where my setup was, talking to somebody, holding their hands, crying. It's like, I remember when I was a kid, or, you know, I still struggle with that, or, you know. And the thing is, it is so real. It's almost like the book has brought to light a lot of what people are still dealing with, you know, and especially through the pandemic. Oh boy, it has really, really served as a tool to help people kind of articulate what it is they're feeling, you know. And that has been incredible, because now parents can have conversations with their kids about feelings they didn't know how to articulate. And in doing so, they now can provide a source of healing and a path to healing for themselves and their children just through a simple conversation, you know. Like the first conversation is, why you name her nothing special? Why you couldn't name her something else? Because that's how she felt. She felt like nothing special. She felt like she wasn't important. She felt like she had nothing to give to the world. And so rather than giving her a pretty name that would detract from that, so give her the name that speaks to who she is in those moments until her life change, you know? And that's the experience that people have when they read the book. They read it the first time, like, ooh, that's deep. They read it the second time, By the third time, it's like, listen, I had to take down some notes. I had to go back and I had to talk through some stuff, you know? Even kids do it.
Nice.
Even kids do it. I've had an assembly where he had about 300 kids, right? And it was all fun and games. He read the first chapter, read the second chapter, and then we started talking about feelings. And in an assembly of 300 kids, and I asked the question, have any of you ever felt like you were nothing special? Like you didn't belong to anyone, that you didn't fit in? And the hands that shot into the air, not slowly glided into it, that shot into the air.
Wow.
And the overwhelming feelings that flooded the room immediately. Teachers were like, okay, all right. I was not ready for all of this, you know?
Mhm.
And then when we started asking questions, it's like, you know, when do you feel like you can't? When do you feel discouraged? And the kids just started shouting it out. And you can see some kids looking at the other kids and like, oh, like they're kind of shocked. Like, I didn't know. I didn't know you could feel like that, or I didn't know that was possible. And so there was this instant exchange. You know, there was this instant kind of vulnerability that extended across the room, the different age groups, the teachers, everyone that was present. And it was like, wow, this is like therapy.
Yeah.
But we only have an hour, so I don't know what's gonna happen next. But it starts something, you know. It definitely starts something, you know.
Yes, and you know, the beauty of it all is this came about because you were willing to be transparent. You were willing to put yourself on paper and connect with hundreds, possibly thousands of people through your story, especially children. You know, they're so vulnerable. You know, their minds are just aching to be shaped. And you came along and you provided a story that allowed them to not only identify where they are now, which is huge for a child, right?
Yeah.
But also the transformational journey of who they want to be, like how they want to see themselves, right? Where that journey ends.
And that is extremely important, you know. I feel as though with books give you an opportunity to live a different type of life. You can be anything between the pages of the books, between those lines and phrases. You can be absolutely anything, and you can go anywhere. The world exists on multiple planes when you open up a book. And what I tried to do in everything that I do is that I want to inspire young people. I want to leave a legacy that, you know, when you open a book, at the beginning of the book, this book is dedicated to Miss Candis Marshall because she wrote that book. And if she hadn't have wrote that book, man, I would not have thought that I could be a writer. I would not have thought that my voice is important. I would not have thought that I needed to learn how to read. You know, I was okay with not knowing. But then when I found out that reading was not just about me knowing, but also with me, it was about me communicating to the world, letting the world know who I am. But who I am in such a way and on such a level that it could not be extinguished. Once you put it in black and white, sweetie, it's there. It is there. It is there forever, like the internet. Everything is forever. So once you put your words down in black and white, it gives life to it. You know, it gives life to you. All of the ideas, all of the thoughts that you have, it kind of revives you in such a way that just speaking words will not do. Because when you speak, you often forget what you say. But when you write something down today and come back in 10 days, 20 days, 10 years, and 20 years, you'll be like, oh, shoot, that was me? Either I was dead, or, dang, I'm glad I'm that person no more. But it helps you. It helps you. Either way, it helps you to see yourself.
Yeah.
And it helps you to see the world from varying perspectives, and all of them yours.
Yeah.
All of them yours, you know. And that's an incredible thing. I think that's an incredible gift that you give yourself when you take the time to articulate how you're feeling and what you're thinking in writing. You know.
And one of the awesome things about all of this is that for kids, it really does help to build their level of character development. You know, they don't even know it. They don't even understand what those two words mean together. But by reading a story similar to yours that has the layer of depth to it, right?
Yeah.
They don't even realize how much they are opening up, identifying with their feelings, you know, and they're building these skills, and they're becoming, this whole other person before your eyes, and
Yeah.
they continue to run with that. And of course, now they have to have a book in their hand, right?
Of
They want to
course.
discover another story. Let's go.
Of course.
I want to see myself higher. I want to be like this
Exactly.
other person. But
Yeah.
as you mentioned, which is so, so important, all of these other aspects are still you.
Precisely. Every single part of what you write is still you. And what happens a lot of times is as we grow and we change and we develop, we forget where we've come from. We've forgotten the distance between who we were and who we now are. And we don't give ourselves enough of a break. Like, give yourself some slack. Like, you're brilliant now, but you were kind of cool back then too, You were awesome.
Hey.
And you're still awesome. You're just different, but you're awesome still, And the thing is that writing and reading are such powerful tools that even when you are lost, it helps you to find your way. It can help you to find your way because there's so many people in this world that are going through similar situations, and some of them have found the key to rescuing themselves or freeing themselves. And in the lines of a book, you can find the keys to rescue yourself from whatever you find yourself in,
Mm-hmm.
And the thing, for me personally, this has been my passion. I've had a passion for reading since I was a little, when I say little kid, I mean, from I could open a book, I'm like, yeah, that's nice. That's nice. I am going to be here one day. And that passion has translated into my kids also having their own passions. One in particular, my son, Casey, he's my second child. He's recently become an author as well. Last year during the pandemic, inspired by the work that we were doing on my book, and all of my kids would go out with me and promote the book and sell the book, and so they know the story inside out. And he was inspired. He was like, I want to write a book. I want to write a book too.
Okay.
And so he published his first book last year, and we did it on a free platform, and it was only available to kids for about 6 months. And so this year, in fact, just a few weeks ago, he decided, you know what, every year I'm going to write a book. Every year until I'm 20, I am going to write a book.
Wow.
Okay? So this year, he's written his book for this year. And last week was literacy week at his school. So we decided that we would take the story to his classmates and have them critique it before we publish it. And he was excited. I was kind of nervous because kids could be stone cold. They don't pull no punches. They tell you something. They tell you something ain't right? And we went there, and him and I read the story for the kids. And when we read the story for the kids, one kid in particular just cracked me up. She says, "You know what, Casey? When you said you wrote a book and you were gonna read the story first, I thought it was gonna be boring." Oh my God. I was like, what? I thought it was gonna be boring. But this was good. This was good. It was adventure, and it was funny, and it was exciting. And I watched those kids because I know all of their vocabulary words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so big shout outs to Miss Camp down there at Claridge Farm, because she doing that vocabulary thing, and those kids are getting it. Because during the whole time they're telling Casey about complimenting him on his book and critiquing it, they're using all of their vocabulary words. And so by the time we're done, they're like, oh, so we can write a book. We can tell stories. We can have our words can go all over the world. I'm like, yeah. What do you want to do? When do you guys want to get started? And they turn to their teachers like, when we can do this? When we can start writing books? I may be reading books. I said, you have to read a lot of books so you get a lot of information. So you have things to write about. Okay then, all right. You can read a lot of books because we writing some books. I'm like, boom. There you go. Yeah. Our job is done here. Who's next? And we did the same thing. That's with the 4th grade. And I did a reading for the 1st grade as well. And the 1st grade they were jazzed up. They were like, okay, we're going to do a story of our own. Yes, we can do that. You can read. You can write. if you want to have good books out there, you can create good books, you know. And we've even taken it to the point that I carried my kids, and we have a field trip at the end of the month where we're going to Ponciana Paper Press on Bar 20 Corner. They have an open house on the 15th of October, so you should go out. At Ponciana, I mean, the kids got to see a book being made and the typeface and see everything that goes into the creation of a book. And it was like a visit to Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. That's how excited they were. Like, oh my God, I've never seen a book like this before in my life. So it's an experience. It is an experience, you know. Read it, write it, see it being made, have that entire experience, fall in love with it. And that's what I attempt to do with, you know, going out and talking to kids and talking to adults about literacy. I want them to fall in love with it. I want them to see it as magical the way that I do, you know. But not be obsessive like me, you know. At some point in my life, my furniture was books. All of my furniture was books. I threw away everything to make room for my books. So maybe not that bad, you know, but definitely have a little bookshelf with a little something going on, a little bookshelf, a little something to read, you know. Make sure I have one or two of those, even if you don't write it for anybody else. Have a journal. Write down your ideas. Write down things that inspire you. You hear something during the course of the day that makes you feel great. Write it down so that you can remember it later. And write down the date so you can remember who you were at that time and what was going on. And trust me, speaking from someone who has had that experience over and over and over again over the past few decades, I've written things when I was a teenager, when I was in my 20s, when I was in my 30s, and I go back now and I read them, and sometimes I think to myself, wow, man, I really got dumb. I don't know what happened. You were a smart chick. That's making sense. I forgot all about that. That's great. And I'm encouraged, you know, I'm encouraged to continue to pursue my dreams and my goals. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of what I'm hearing, you know, that the kids would be developing is self-confidence, self-esteem.
Yes.
You know, I can have dreams and I can follow those. And one of the biggest things, I can do it. Because those kids in Casey's class and the first grade class that you read to, they are now inspired to know that, hey, I can write a whole book.
That's it.
That's it. Me, I'm not so small. I may look smaller than the adults, but I'm incredible. I'm awesome, and I can do this.
That is it. That is it. That is the big part. And I tell them all the time. I say, you know what? At home, this is what I do with my kids. Anything can be a song. Absolutely anything can be a song. You know, the washing machine, sugar, 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 sugar. It could be a song. It could be a song. We're in there, you know, you miss it, hit something on the pot. Next thing you know, we got a whole song. Writing music. It's writing. Singing and compiling words. It's writing. All of that is writing. All of that it helps with your literacy. The more words you know, the better you are, the better you will be able to not only help yourself, but help others understand where you're coming from, so that you can get what you need to live the life that you desire to live. A lot of times there are barriers that exist between a person getting to where they want to be. It's because they don't know how to articulate it. They don't know how to say, hey man, I want X, Y, and Z. Instead, they're saying apples, oranges, pears, shoes, rather than no, that's not what I want. I want X, Y, and Z. And the more you read, and the more you read different types of things, not just one type of thing. Like I read magazines, I read journals, I read research papers, I watch documentaries, I read anything that I can get my hands on, and I read absolutely every day. Every day. And the reason for that is because I want my mind to be sharp. I want to be able to explain where I'm coming from and what I'm thinking to anybody. Absolutely anybody, from a 2-year-old child to someone that has been in business for decades, and they have their preconceived notions about how the world works right now. I want to be able to have that conversation. And so it's an everyday thing. 1 page, 2 pages, at least 4 pages a day. At least 4 pages of something interesting a day. Sometimes it's absolute garbage. I'm not gonna lie. Comic books. No, comic books aren't garbage. No. Comic
That's
books are
true.
good.
Entertainment.
They're good.
Imagination. Yeah.
Comic books are great. All right. My kids are learning Japanese. I still don't know half of what they're saying, but comic books. There you go.
Yes, so true. And I like that reading goal, 4 pages a day. We can all learn from that. Adults, kids, 4 pages.
4 pages. Yeah.
So, of course, we can absolutely see that you're extremely passionate about youth development, working with at-risk children, and all children, really. So what has motivated you to be so connected to being an advocate for change when it comes to these areas?
Well, it comes from my own childhood, right? I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, and I watched what was going on in my community, and I thought about it. As a child, I very rarely spoke. Right? I really didn't start communicating that much until I was about 11. So I spent 11 years watching and taking it in and assessing and learning from other people's experiences. Like I said, I often tell people, for 11 years, I was wallpaper. I was in a room, but not in a room. And so nobody paid attention to me, but I paid attention to absolutely everything. And I started to think, even when I was a little kid, how can I change this? How can I make this better? How can I make our lives better? And into high school, dealing with those issues and having friends that were having these major struggles, and their parents didn't understand them and would not allow them to speak, to say what was going on. And all of these things just compounded. And in my mind, I started to kind of calculate, how do I fix this? How can I become an agent of change? What would I have to do? And initially I wanted to be a teacher. No, first I wanted to be a doctor. Then I realized I can't do the blood thing. No. To be a doctor, you got to be into that. You got to be able to deal with that. I can't do that. Then I wanted to be a teacher. I was like, yeah, I can do that. But I couldn't be in a classroom. I don't have the attention span for that. I couldn't be in the classroom every single day. All right, I can be honest, I couldn't do it. And then I decided, after visiting Columbia College in Chicago, that, by any means necessary, I would learn absolutely everything I could possibly learn about everything. Like the Bible says, Paul says, I will become all things to all men so that I may win some. And that became my mode of thinking. If I work and I learn as much as I possibly could, then I would have equipped myself to become a tool for changing my community and changing those around me. I can become an agent of change. I could translate information to anyone about any subject so that they can understand and connect and do things that not only benefits them, but benefits their community. And that was something that kind of clicked in my mind from when I was a little kid. And just as I got older and I learned more and I got more experience and I developed more contacts and whatnot, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to teach. Mind you, this whole time I've been teaching, but never officially in a classroom. But the idea behind the message, my message, has always been that we must teach love. We must teach love and understanding. Yeah. We must teach. When I was a missionary, we must teach love and understanding. When I was working with youth departments and youth, love and understanding. Every job that I've ever held, every outreach ministry that I've been a part of, everything, private, governmental, whatever, love and understanding. Because if we can learn to love and understand ourselves, it puts us in a position to love and understand others. And when we perpetuate that, when we allow that to just spread, and give people the tools to do it. Give people the tools. Give them the things that they need in order to be able to, do the process by themselves. It makes for a better community.
Mm-hmm.
And building a better community will build a better country and eventually build a better world. Now, I know I'm one person, and that's a tall order, but I believe in legacy.
Yes.
I believe in legacy, and in order to get a legacy going, it has to start somewhere. And this is where I've chosen to start, sharing what I know with anybody who will listen.
Yeah. Such a beautiful message, Candis. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you are doing an amazing job. I mean, I'm sure that you know that. Maybe you don't hear that enough, but you have done wonders with children, with adults, breaking barriers, opening minds, changing mindsets, creating shifts. I mean, incredible, noteworthy, remarkable, all of those things. You are definitely building a legacy and creating a community. Awesome job.
That's, like I said, that's the plan. That's the plan, and I encourage anyone who is in a position to make change, I often, especially recently, especially this year, I've been asked the question countless times, where do you find the time to do all of these things? I don't find the time. It's not something that I fit in. It is a part of who I am, and it's my lifestyle. This is what I do. I find people that I can love, and then I love them. I just love them to death. Until they be like, you know what, that's enough for you. You need to come from around here. That's enough for you. And the thing is, in that process, I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning about them. I'm learning about human behavior. I'm learning about things that I may not have ever discovered had I not been open to understand, open to share, and open to love, and that's extremely important. A lot of times in society, especially today, we tend to put up barriers. It's easy to put up barriers, it's very, very easy to put up barriers, but through reading, because a lot of people write down the secrets. There was a saying many years ago. It says, if you want to hide something from somebody, put it in a book. That's why I read too, because all the secrets are in the book. Everybody's business in the book. And so because of that, because of the insights that I get from all of these different people, different places, different things, all of these different experiences, it causes me to look at people differently, and it causes me to listen differently. It reminds me to listen without judgment, listen to understand, not to draw a conclusion. And when I listen to understand, more often than not, I find that there is a revelation that is that comes about every single time without fail. And unfortunately for the people who talk to me, sometimes end up writing it down and then forgetting it was them that say it. So yeah, that's why you have to write notes. You have to write notes to say, oh, Joanne say that. That wasn't you. No, you ain't that. John was being the genius that day. He was the genius responsible for this. But either way, it is a fantastic thing. It is a fantastic thing to take part in someone's life and then to create something that someone can carry home with them.
Yeah.
And connect to you on a level at which they are comfortable,
mm-hmm.
And it opens doors in their lives. And that is a brilliant thing. And there should be more of it. There should be much more of it,
Awesome. And you're making a way, inspiring others to do it.
Hey, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Yes. So Forrest, you have given us just a little taste of what to expect with the Non-Adventures of Nothing Special. We have to know, where can we find a copy of this book for ourselves and our children, the little young ones in our lives?
Okay, so there are a couple of places you can find it. If you're local, give me a call, man. I got copies. I can hook you up. We can be friends. No, but seriously, that is an option. However, you can purchase the book online on Amazon. You would have to put in the complete name, The Non-Adventure Adventures of Nothing Special. You can also find it on lulu.com as well as on my Etsy shop. And so that's Etsy Etsy/Cajubon. That's the name of my company. I'll spell it for you. CAJOUBEN. That's CAJOUBEN. And that's on Etsy.
Awesome. So you heard it here, guys. You know exactly where to get a copy of her book. You can be inspired, you know, and you find yourself in a different place where you reconnect with that younger you, and you continue to grow from that. As she stated, reading breaks barriers, and this is an absolute example of that happening in real life. So Candis, of course, we are so grateful for you sharing your story, sharing your journey, the impact that you have made across borders with children and adults alike by sharing your own story, by being transparent with us, helping people to reconnect with who they are, and inspiring so many kids. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of little, you know, Bahamian authors running around showing everyone their book.
You watch next year. It's going to happen. You watch next year.
It's going to be this big boom. They're going to say, Miss Candis, she inspired me to do it. And, you know, that's so awesome because now it starts as reading and writing and expanding their vocabulary. Tomorrow they're leaders. They're change makers. They're making waves, you know, and it's all thanks to your work and what you're doing and what you're continuing to do. And so we thank you for placing so much of that into a book that is, as you said, people can take with them and rediscover who they are.
Yeah. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, you know. Like I said, it's been a passion of mine for many, many years. And I am so blessed right now that in this season, I'm getting the opportunity to really take hold of certain platforms and share the message. Share the message and hopefully inspire some great authors, because I'm telling you, when you've had a conversation with a 5-year-old about, you know, like I've had a conversation with my little nephew about what he learned in religious studies and talking about Jesus and the cross. And I will tell you the truth. I have never, ever in my entire life heard the crucifixion story played out quite like that. It was a telenovela, okay? The criminals, the people in the crowd. Oh my God, it was riveting. It was riveting. He started to write it all down. It was riveting, I'm telling you. So imagine if all of these big stories, you know, all of this imagination was just to be captured and put into a book and have the kids teach other kids that, hey, there is a place for you in this world. That big, bright part that is you, there is a place for you in this world. Come, let's do it together. And that is what I'm hoping, you know. That is my greatest hope and desire. That everything that we're doing, and even what you're doing by creating this platform for folks like me to share what we're doing in the community, all of this, that young people, that children will see it and they'll be like, you know what? I'm going to do that. Watch me. And trust me, I watch it. I'm watching. I won't be here for all of it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. So, of course, everyone, as she stated, if you are here in the beautiful islands of the Bahamas, you can contact her at 242-468-7452 to get your copy or a couple. I think it's a great classroom idea to have. And of course, to stay in touch with the latest updates and events, maybe even book sightings that she's having, you can stay connected with her at Facebook and Instagram at Candis Marshall, and that's Candis, Candis, Marshall Live for more. As a reminder, this episode is proudly sponsored by Amber L. We thank our audience for watching, and of course, our special guest speaker, who has created a book that is the epitome of building character development in children through reading. She has created a fun literary space where kids can find inspiration and long-lasting wisdom. I invite you to follow me on this Facebook page to watch the full episode if you're just tuning in. And of course, tune in next week for another episode of Vibration, where we raise your frequency and amplify your truth. Bye, everyone.
Bye.